I'd like to welcome everyone here today. Welcome to 2022. Welcome to a new story. We gather to speak of possibility. We embrace the possible over the probable, weaving a story of hope. Join us in 2022 for this new story. Join us in the future of possibility. Welcome members and visitors to Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society, known by our members as the Valley. To those of you who will be watching the recording of this platform later today, I welcome you. My name is Patty. I'm presiding this afternoon at today's platform. Visitors, if you would like to receive Valley news or further information from us, please provide your contact information in the chat feature found at the bottom of your screen. The Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society is a community of all walks of life that learns and grows together through shared values, doing good, and nurturing the human spirit. We are a safe and courageous place in which members can build a community of friends, find inspiration and purpose, provide moral education for their children, and celebrate seasons and life events and clarify their worldviews. A few announcements before we get started. Thursday, January 13th, at 7:00 p.m. on Zoom. The Ethical Action Committee has a brand new ethical action program that they are introducing, and they're excited to be joining forces with Vanguard Fitness to improve our ethical living through a healthy living. Join professional certified fitness trainer Brian Johnson, who is one of our members of SVES. Brian will go through a session, a half-hour session of stretching, bending, and soft exercise to promote wellness in our lives. You can visit our website for more details and the Zoom link. And on the website, if you have a pen and paper handy, it will be at Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society.org/the Valley Programs. On Sunday, January 16th, we will have our consulting leader, Dr. J. Exodus Hooper, speaking with us. And it will, at this point, don't know what Jay has in store, but I know that it will be inspiring. And Jay, if you have a thought.
As of right now, I'm just gonna take it easy on trying to give you all a thought. I will be glad to, since I've been attending to like family matters and personnel.
That's great. We will enjoy, I know, exactly, whatever you bring for us next Sunday. All right, I'd like.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Excuse me, Jay?
No, I said I'm sure. I'm just agreeing with you.
Okay, great. Okay, and now I'd like to have a visitor, a guest with us, Anthony Cruz, to work with us in our affirmation. Anthony?
Thank you so much, Patty. Dear visitors, guests, after we do at the Valley, in this space, in this beloved community, we meet to deepen our sense of the meaningfulness of life. Ideas with which we guide our choices, to give us courage to take the higher path, know one another over time, in appreciation of one's unique and incompatible worth. And together, we work for a world where love and justice cross all borders. Our statement of affirmation, to which we seek to live out and practice every day beyond this community, is that we affirm the worth, dignity, and uniqueness of every human and sentient being.
Thank you, Anthony. I always enjoy hearing you share the affirmation. It always sets me at peace. Thank you. Today we have speaking with us Carolyn Parker. Carolyn is actually kicking off our 2022 year, our new story, and our theme for January, Joyous Giving. I welcome Carolyn A. Parker, Ph.D., as our guest and our speaker. Carolyn is a native Texan, retired educator, and a nonprofit executive. She is a member, as well as the past president of the Ethical Society of Austin in Texas. She currently serves as chair of our AEU's Ethical Action Committee. So happy to have you with us, Carolyn. And Carolyn's talk today is Giving Ethically. Carolyn, it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Patty. And thank you all for having me here today. It's a privilege and an honor to be here with you today and have a chance to talk to you about ethical action. When I think about ethical action, I tend to break it down into 4 modes of action: living, giving, serving, and educating. By living, I mean how we live our ethics as we maintain our relationships with ourselves and others, as well as with the land on which we live. Living is how we express the ethical culture movement. Living is our witness, our testimony that ethics is central. By giving, I mean the gifts we give to help others live well and ethically. Giving is how we invest in the ethical culture movement. By serving, I mean the acts or deeds in which we apply our skills and knowledge to demonstrate our commitment to ethics. Serving is how we build the ethical culture movement. And by educating, I mean helping others to understand how to build a more ethical society by using public advocacy and information. Educating is how we spread the ethical culture movement. Each of these modes is complex in nature, and all 4 overlap and even blend to some degree. Now today, our focus is giving ethically, but I can talk about the others when you're ready. When I look at a concept such as giving ethically, I have a process that I use to understand it. No doubt this is a reflection of my past time in the trenches as an English instructor. But since I also spent even more time in similar trenches teaching Swahili, I'd say it also reflects the importance of knowing what we are saying when we speak. This particular phrase, giving ethically, has, fortunately for our time today, only 2 words to consider: giving and ethically. The first word in the phrase, giving, is an action word derived from a verb. It comes out of the Germanic origin of our language and means some act of transferring something from one entity to another. Now, over time, giving has taken on layers of nuance, so that if you look at synonyms for the word, it can include such words as commit, deliver, donate, handout, present, provide, bequeath, seed, confer, consign, deed, endow, ante up, subsidize, tip, and more. In each of those acts of giving, there's really some kind of hint about both the giver and the recipient, about their relationships, and even a hint about the motives for giving. Now, the second word of the phrase, ethically, is an adverb, and that gives its own nuance to giving. It modifies giving to indicate that it is an act performed in a way that relates to a moral principle. I've written elsewhere about the meaning of ethics, as have a lot of other people who are a lot wiser than I am, and I've settled on a definition that works for me. For me, ethics is my beliefs about what is or is not acceptable for me to do. For me, my ethics come through my own learning, experience, and reason. In other words, I decide what is right and what is wrong for me and use that as a guide for my behavior. So, what we're talking about then is how I decide what is right for me to do when I give. By implication, because we're here together today, we're also talking about how you decide to perform the ethical action of giving based on your ethics, what is the right way for you to give. There is no rule in ethical culture for giving. We say that ethics begins with a choice. So does giving ethically. And the choice of whether to give and how to give is left up to each of us to decide for ourselves. So let me frame it in the following terms, in terms of my choices about giving as an ethical action. And let me use as the example for our discussion my decision to give money, time, and resources to the ethical culture movement. Let us do this as an example of how you might make your own decisions about giving as an ethical action, making your own choices about where to direct your gifts. So here's what I see. The ethical culture movement is nearly 150 years old. There are 23 or so local ethical societies in the United States, most of them with less than 50 members each. From our heyday of advising presidents and helping to shape national policy, we are reduced to a handful of certified leaders working 2 jobs if they are lucky. Most Americans have never heard of us. Now that sounds like a negative. It sounds like a failure. But from where I stand, I see survival. I see perseverance. I see a challenge, and I see work to do. So let's talk for a minute about where I stand. I came to ethical culture very late in my life. I was raised a Southern Baptist, attending church almost literally from birth. I participated actively in all the roles that were available to girls. I was in the girls' auxiliary. The boys were royal ambassadors. We were the auxiliary. And I went all the way to the top rank by the time I was 15. I was baptized twice. I taught Sunday school and vacation Bible school. I joined the Baptist Student Union when I went to college, and I married my prayer mate in the Religion Center on campus. I was the soloist for a mission team that went around to churches in the Houston area. But during the latter part of this period, I took a graduate seminar on Emerson and Thoreau. And that was the catalyst that led to my leaving a long and intense relationship with Christianity behind. Nearly 50 years later, Emerson provided my connection to Felix Adler and ethical culture. I found ethical culture in 2015, having lost most of my immediate family in 2014. And after months of grief therapy, realized that I needed and need a community of like-minded people in which I could feel comfortable and be myself. The effort to find that community led to ethical culture, specifically the American Ethical Union. And with astonishing good luck, I found that there was an ethical culture society right in my own city. The effort that took to get there is a story for another day. Today, the important point for where I stand is that ethical culture is hard to find, not very visible, something that I had never heard of, and I almost missed it. So the other important point for where I stand is that when I did finally stumble upon ethical culture, I immediately recognized kindred spirits and wanted to know more about ethical culture itself. In ethical culture, I've found family, men and women, young and old, that I can call brother, sister, son, and daughter. In ethical culture, I have found friendship of a depth and joy that I have never experienced before. True, my best friends now live in Wisconsin, Louisiana, North Carolina, the Bronx, California, and fortunately a couple nearby in Austin. But it is a testament to the bonds created in ethical culture that I have made such dear friends that distance cannot separate us. In ethical culture, I have found a philosophy to live by, principles to guide my daily and critical life decisions. In ethical culture, I have found an institution, a bit shaky, very spotty in its distribution across the planet, but an institution that I can be proud of. In almost 150 years, ethical culture has participated and often led the work of moving our country forward in education, fair labor practices, civil liberties, racial equity, peace building, and more. These are things that matter to me. These are things that I would give my time, give my worldly goods, give my money. So that's about to get us into the why of my giving. And the why of my giving would be this. First, there is much work still to be done. Democracy is in danger. The end of racism is so very far away. We do not act like a peaceful nation, no matter what our leaders say. Ethical culture's voice and its reason and its humane concern are all needed in today's public dialogue. This moral voice can lead, inspire, teach others to be better, to be their best. I would give all that I can to support the voice that says that ethics is and must be central to all we do. Second, there are other people like me still out there, people who have never heard of ethical culture. These are people who long for the light of understanding, the warmth of compassion, and the fire of commitment. Those words, the light of understanding, the warmth of compassion, and the fire of commitment, are what we in Austin say when we light the candle at the beginning of our Sunday meeting in Austin. These words are what first hooked me, if you will, in ethical culture. I would give all that I could to turn that candle into a burning beacon that signals from hilltop to hilltop that here in ethical culture is a community of kindred spirits in which you can grow and flourish to do and be your best. And third, on a really more practical note, I've always been one to pay attention to the basics. I've been known to give the kids new underwear for Christmas. Once, when I had no cash to give, I supplied a candidate's campaign with toilet paper. I just bought extra supplies when I went to the grocery stores. In 25 years of managing nonprofit organizations, I am well aware of the dreaded administrative costs. I know from experience that the smaller the organization, the higher the percentage of budget allocated to administration. Ethical culture to be a beacon for those who would join our movement and to be the voice for ethics for this nation must have a sound foundation for its daily operations. I would and do give to make sure that the lights stay on and that there's somebody there to keep things going. Now that's me. You may have different reasons for coming to ethical culture. You will have your own reasons for supporting this movement. When you get a chance, you might want to think about your own relationship to the ethical culture movement. Think about and talk to each other about why you are here and what you want to do. Ask yourself and each other, what do I need ethical culture to do for me, for others, for our community, for my world, and how will we pay for it? However you answer those questions, you may also, like me, be faced with choices about who or what you give to and how much. This indeed is what ethics is about. The choices we make in the smallest details of our lives reflect our highest values and can also shape future choices. Let me talk to you about a potato and where that choice is. So for me, there is no question from my perspective that I would give to ethical culture. I come from a working class family background that emphasized sharing what we had and giving what we could. Of course, that Baptist background also emphasized tithing, giving 10% of my allowance as an offering at my church. In ethical culture, we have no deity to receive our offering, nor any commandment or rule that we give anything to support the movement. Some local societies do have dues for membership. Some of them hold annual pledge drives to meet their budget goals. This would be something that the members of that society have mutually agreed upon, deciding among themselves how much money is needed, what it will be used for, and how the society will raise funds. This pattern of deciding among ourselves how to do things is a reflection of our commitment to democratic process as an essential strategy in our operations. The American Ethical Union receives funding from its member societies in an annual contribution called an apportionment. This is a sum that is based on the number of members of the society and some other factors that AEU has decided are fair as a fair way of sharing the cost. Again, they've made the decision of what is fair in community together with the input and participation, democratic participation of their member societies. Through the Ethical Society of Austin, which is a society member of the AEU, I am also a member of the AEU. My contributions to ESOA help fund its apportionment to AEU. And by the way, even if I contributed nothing to ESOA, the ESOA would still include me in the count that determines what their apportionment to AEU will be. Now, that in itself presents me with an ethical dilemma, a decision that I have to make, whether it is right for me to let others pay my fair share of the apportionment or make sure that my giving is adequate enough to, well, pay my fair share. How then do I choose to give? Well, for a start, I have to think about my local ethical culture society, the Ethical Society of Austin. This is the society that I want to be a beacon for ethical culture. This is the society that I want to be a voice for ethics in Texas, no less. This is a society which has basic expenses for rent and supplies and at least one contractor with administrative responsibilities. Being who I am, I care about the basics. In order to function with weekly meetings in rented space and a modest effort at promoting its presence in the area, let's pretend that ESOA has an annual budget of $12,000. It's an easy number. With about 24 members, it would be simple to say that my fair share of that budget is $500. Now, I could give that $500 in one lump sum and say I'd done my part. Or I could spread it out in monthly payments of $41.67 each month. My credit union can send out the checks for me each month, so I can make that choice and not have to try to remember to do it. Personally, I like that monthly option because it gives my society a sense of what it means, what means it will have, what its resources will be each month, and it supports better planning. And either way, my fair share of the overall budget will cover my fair share of the society's apportionment to AEU. Okay. But wait, not everyone can afford $41.67 a month. Some of our members are barely making it. Seniors with fixed income, families affected by the COVID shutdowns, victims of the inequities of our social structure and cultural values. And besides, all of us at some time may go through a tough period. As a life stance, ethical culture places great emphasis on individual choice, individual growth, individual responsibility. But ethical culture is also about community. Whether we frame it as relationships or connections, we eventually find ourselves in larger circles of community with our family, our neighbors, our country, our planet. Or if you want to limit these connections to the ethical culture movement, we are in community with our local ethical culture society, our National American Ethical Union, our Global Humanists International. Does that sense of community mean that just giving our fair share is enough? For me, it does not. I know that one of our members is quite elderly. He lives on a fixed income and has experienced some life issues that have left him with very little to spare. Every time we pass the basket and I see those trembling hands slowly pull out a wallet, slowly and clumsily take out a $5 bill or worse, a $20 bill, I wince, thinking that they can ill afford to make that contribution, worrying what they might have to do without in order to give to ESOA. This member's fair share of the budget would severely affect their ability to have a decent life in their straitened circumstances. I, on the other hand, am doing okay. I can afford to give my fair share and more. And given the example of our very oldest member, I have to say that I'm actually inspired to give more to a cause, an organization, an idea that I care very much about. Giving in this sense means something important, and giving ethically means that the right thing for me to do is to give all that I can to support the ethical culture movement. Now, don't think that I'm setting myself up as some perfect role model. There's a dark side to all this giving. For one thing, I sometimes find myself thinking about what other people are giving. If I'm giving my fair share, and maybe more, what is everyone else giving? I confess to having gone over to that dark side on occasion when I heard someone say, I'm giving less now because we're virtual and our expenses are not the same. I was tempted to reduce my giving as well, not because our expenses were less, they were only minimally less, but because I didn't want to get caught carrying the whole society, as if that would happen. It's fair to want others to give their fair share too, but there is something of a moral hazard in basing our own giving on how much others give. Supporting the ethical culture movement is not a competition, nor do we ourselves become better people by virtue of keeping up with our ethical neighbors. Moreover, we risk shifting the ethics of our giving from determining what is acceptable for us to do to determining how we compare to others. I've also stepped across the line by thinking about my giving very directively. We all have opinions about how we want our money to be used, the programs and activities that we think will best accomplish our goals and meet our needs. Indeed, we are entitled to make directed donations when that is our choice. And U.S. laws generally support us in doing that. But I think there's a fine line that can be crossed when we begin to think of our gifts as a means of controlling the organization. Sometimes I find myself exasperated by the process of deciding on needed supplies, equipment, and think, I'll just buy the thing and be done with it. While my judgment may be sound and my taste exquisite, not, the risk I take in making such decisions on my own is that I place myself apart from the community, making a decision alone that should, for the sake of community cohesion, be made together. I will also perhaps be seen as a bully. So my ethics allow me to make directed donations, but for me, only in support of programs, not to determine or direct the details, unless I do so in community. Nonetheless, there is another aspect of this notion of caring about how our money is spent that is not a step toward the dark side. Indeed, it's very much a part of the bright light that needs to shine anytime money is used. I'm referring to the role of the recipient of our gift and the responsibility that they have not only to use our gifts well, but to account for how they have been used. My ethics and all modern standards of organizational management say that I have a right to know that there is a plan in place for using the money that I give to my society. That would mean, at the minimum, that there is a budget for the current fiscal year. It is, after all, the budget that is going to tell me what my fair share is. Unless I use the people, I can't do it, which says 2% of my income is a fair share. It's a little bigger. Even better, of course, would be a strategic plan for the current and future years, which is reflected in the budget. My ethics also tell me that I have a right to expect fiscal controls. These controls may be minimal in a small organization, but there should be some sort of indication that my money will be handled with a care that will keep it from getting lost or misused. Regular accounting reports to the board, periodic accounting reports to members, and an audit committee are doable for even the smallest organization. Remember that it's not always evil that is our downfall. Sometimes it is the appearance of evil. And in the case of the recipient of our gifts, it's also the appearance of the possibility of evil. Taking the steps to show that my money is in good hands and being used properly gives me more confidence in my giving. Finally, we need to address the elephant in the room. When we think of giving ethically, it may be that the first thing that comes to mind is actually charitable giving rather than giving to the ethical culture movement or our local ethical culture society. Indeed, I use the ethical culture movement as my example today because I am committed to the movement and I do believe that supporting and developing it is an ethical action. I do, however, also believe that the same issues and principles that I have described in thinking about giving to the movement or to the local society are the same principles that we need to consider with any sort of giving, especially giving as a mode of ethical action. No matter how and where we give, we need to ask these questions. What is my purpose in giving? Whether I'm seeking to support a cause, change the system, make troubled lives better, my choice to give will be based on my needs and goals. Keeping ethics central, we still have choices about priorities and preference that reflect our values. Another question, is the recipient ethically managed? Does it have transparent finances, sound fiscal planning and controls? Does it emphasize the values and priorities that matter to me? Also, is this my decision to make, or should I make it in community with my family, if it's personal funds, or my society, if it's society funds? And finally, I'd say, does this support the ethical culture movement? Okay, that's my priority and not necessarily yours. But just note that whenever you do give, if you identify yourself as an ethical culturist or ethical humanist, you will also be supporting the ethical culture movement by making people aware of our presence and our giving. So, giving is but one mode of ethical action. If the gifts we give, it is the gifts that we give that help others live well and ethically. Whether it is a gift to the ethical culture movement at the local level or a gift directly to some other charitable organization, our gift will, directly or indirectly, help others live well and ethically. Our gift will be an investment in the ethical culture movement, whether it's given directly to the ethical culture movement or to some other organization when given as an ethical humanist. Depending on our circumstances and the factors that allow us to give, we can do much to build a more humane and sustainable world. Some of us will find that offering our services or engaging in educational action will be better suited to our means and abilities. All of us, I have no doubt, will try to live ethically. Together, in community, we can make a difference with our ethical action. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you very much. Wow, I think we have lots of thoughts on what Carolyn has provided us with today. And we certainly want to give some time for, sharing. And Jay and Phyllis, I believe we have a framework that we were going to work from in getting some discussion going on the topic. And also I want to touch base with Olivia. Hi, Olivia. Olivia, did you have a share for us today?
I do.
You do? Okay, okay. So, Jay, are you here?
No, I think he's.
Oh, did he have to pop out? Oh, Jay had to pop out. Okay, so Olivia, would you like to go ahead and do your share? And then Phyllis, I think after Olivia has done that, then we can have some discussion. Carolyn, are you okay with us to do that?
I'm fine. I apologize if that went over long. I'm
Oh,
used to
no.
Okay, all right.
Nope, perfectly. All right. We're so happy when Olivia is able to join us and share her poetry. And so I want to make sure I give her this opportunity now to do so. And Olivia, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I'm late. I was late. So I missed a lot of it, but on the topic of giving ethically and living in the ecosystem that you're in ethically, I wrote, it's kind of a poem, but I'll just begin. It's called Purpose. You are one of 10,000 to 100,000 microorganisms on one grain of sand. You are one of billions of microorganisms in a handful of sand on one beach, on one ocean, on this one planet, in this one solar system, in this one galaxy, in this one universe among infinite. That's purpose. To know where you are in relationship to everything and do what you can in the lifespan of your heart beating. You are that microscopic and that enormous. Imagine all that is coming together to sustain the life of that one microorganism. Imagine all the circumstances leading to its life and death. Think of the vital role that one organism has to the function of ecosystems and life on our planet. That's purpose. Whenever you can bring awareness to the intentions you put into the actions you take, the intention of when you drink and eat, every beat of your heart and pulse, the intention of every breath you take, every step you take, the intention of every interaction you have with what you perceive to be outside of yourself, every thought you have, the awareness of the emotions that cycle through your body, the intentions of the moments you sleep and wake up, that's purpose. To put yourself in relationship to all of that, recognize the enormity and use your intentions wisely, recognize the smallness and keep the world off your shoulders. You are here until your heartbeat stops. As that microorganism, you cannot stop the ocean, but everything you are and everything you are becoming can be influenced by your intentions, the energy you exude in the infinite ocean of energy that exists. Be present where you are at this moment, because that one moment is tied to every moment. That's purpose. To be present with the moment, with your body, with your intentions, with your energy and breath. Grieve, relax, laugh, exist, and support your ecosystem.
Mhm. Thank you, Olivia. You know, that was actually just perfect, having you share that at the end of the program with Carolyn, and just gives us even more thought to how we want to frame this remaining time we have together.